absolutely. Obviously, good to get back in the game week. Took advantage of last week as far as getting a chance to look at the TCU depth or look at the TCU game in depth. Got some guys that were not really missing any time. Just guys need a little bit of time to heal. So I think this week will be the healthiest game we've had, other than obviously the departure of Ryan Pulley. Should have everybody with us on Saturday. Obviously, last night released the uniforms that was brought to me. I don't know when last year. The idea of it, and of course, I was fully in support of it. And then to hear the reaction from the Jones family has been very, very positive. The kids saw the uniforms for the first time and really enjoyed it. We practiced in them yesterday. Now we'll put those away till game day just to make sure everything fit and was all put together in all the right places. So to reward or honor Jerry Jones is another great reason to be a part of that celebration this year with him in the Hall of Fame. So A&M is a good football team. I know that obviously the first game drew a lot of attention, and then a couple games after that. But the team that we're facing is the same one we faced since I've been here the last 4 years. Obviously one of two teams in the West we haven't been able to capture since I've been here. I've had some close games with them there in Jerry's world, but I think their offense, as their quarterback gets more and more comfortable, whichever one they have back there, but they definitely made improvement last weekend. Wide receivers are always very talented. They got a host of running backs. Defensively, they got skill all over the place. Maybe not the name brand that they had a year ago up front, but still very, very active players at the D-line and linebacker core, and are very effective in the return game and special teams overall. So we got our work cut out for us, but I think this team's very close to being where we'll all be proud of them. I know we've made progress, not as fast as everybody wants, but this team is very, very close. One thing I've instilled in them or tried to is to be very positive in the fact that their belief and their faith in being successful is very important. To kind of block out anything negative, to try and be very, very positive about how close they are. Obviously, defense took some strides. I like where they're at. Surrendered those 2 late touchdowns, but overall did a lot of really positive things offensively at times, showed what they're capable of doing. We just needed to be consistent. And obviously in the fourth quarter, a huge emphasis to try and push that thing through and get to where they need to be. So we've made a few adjustments within the schemes, but also within the emphasis and practice, and hopefully that'll pan out this weekend. So with that, open it up for questions. Yeah, right now, Nate, that's how it would lie out, but we still have Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, obviously, and Thursday to see exactly where they are. Him and Mazza were almost dead heat. The only thing that Limpert has done is he's kicked in a live game situation, so based on where we're at next Saturday, that'll be the deciding factor.
Does that change your snapper or holder?
No, they actually, all of them like Miller, Reed as their holder, whether it's Mazza or any one of the three, so that doesn't going to change it, and it doesn't change anything with snapper.
You just said a few adjustments to the scheme and something.
Well, no, I mean, obviously we don't want to mail the game plan in, but I think, Austin, his athleticism, things that he's been able to do, he's done some good stuff in the option game down there, and I feel that we got a variety of tailbacks back there that we could use. So just different things to kind of have a different look, but also stay true to what we are. I think the part that's changed in college football is you don't really have teams have goal line packages anymore. That they stay in their little personnel all the way down, and so it's hard when you're in big personnel to get looks and then to see the variations that may come at you. There's been times where we've prepared for a certain look and then you get in the game and somebody's done something totally different just because they didn't have anything on film other than what you'd already seen. So bottom line is we got to capitalize on the one-on-one battles that make it win overall.
Offensive line, any changes there?
No, Jake Rawson got in sub-package last week or in TCU and actually played pretty well. Brian Wallace has had his best couple weeks of practice. I know everybody gets concerned when you're starting a true freshman, but he has not been, Ty has not been a concern for us and has played fairly well. Not glowingly any mistakes or mental breakdowns or physical breakdowns. Just a very talented player that deserves the opportunity he's getting.
The A&M games for you, they've been some of the closest, almost had those type games. Is this series kind of a little bit more something special?
Obviously I've made repeated comments to the fact that this is, one of the few teams, one of two teams that we haven't beaten in the West. Obviously, my first year we had Johnny Manziel out here, and would stayed after it for a while, but ended up breaking down in the end. And then the next year and the year after that went into overtime games that we were out in front of and weren't able to close it out. And then last year we were in control of the game. I think there was a 16-10 point game when we had a chance to score, didn't get it in, and really could have broke things open. Give credit to them. But that's why I'm talking to this group about, you know, in today's world, I think men naturally don't really believe in things until they actually see them or witness them, and they need that apparent goal or that vision or that feeling of having it done. And when you're in a situation in a program like we took over, to get that feeling consistently is hard to establish, and we're right there knocking on the door. I know we at times have done it, but at times we haven't, and until we hurdle that barrier, it's going to be something that we just talk about. I want it to be tangible. I want it to be real, and I want them to feel their success and kind of block out any outside noise that tries to distract them from it and tell them why they can't. Let's focus on what we can do and why we do it.
Just curious about leadership that you've seen in the last week, and particularly with your quarterback.
Yeah, I think two things jumped out to this year's group coming in. Is why I changed up the voting structure for captain. Our 4 captains are absolutely outstanding. Frank and Austin on offense, and Santos and K. Rich. All of them kind of have different stories. Obviously, you got a 5th-year walk-on guy that came here with nothing. You got a 4th-year safety who came in. We wanted to play as a freshman, but was a little banged up, so he's playing his best football. Frank has been, from the moment of the locker room after the Vatech game to where we are today, his leadership has been priceless. And then Austin, it's kind of been, you know, he came in on Fuego, was on fire in the spring, in the fall, had a little bit of setback in fall camp with time away, and has been building himself back up. And I tell you, has been the only thing he try to put all the weight on the world on his shoulders, and we got to help him out as coaches, as players. You know, we're all in this together. He's got to have confidence to step up and do the things he's capable of doing, because when he's on, there isn't anybody better than him. But we recognize that we got to take some things as coaches maybe off his plate to make sure that the plate gets smaller and he can get better before we try to add more to it. He's good. He's good in a variety of different fashions. Very quick, very elusive, fast, can change the game in a minute. I think he's got exceptional vision. You know, he's not only did the good Lord bless him with some great skill sets, but he's got the ability to see and read and move through fields that are clouded pretty easily. He's a really exciting player and a tremendous competitor, a guy I've really admired from afar, but also try to stop him. Sammy? Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
He's had his AD going back to summer and going on the five-time show saying he's got to win, and he has a board of region come out and blast him. They penalty us a nasty letter.
Yeah.
Just wondering what you're thinking about.
You know, as coaches, those are kind of the things you don't talk about. You know, when somebody and I have gotten together, whether we're at SEC meetings or different times, or just shoot the breeze with a conversation or a phone call or a text, they're usually about everything other than those kind of scenarios and those situations. I just have grown up with him in the business. He was a young assistant in Purdue when I was at Iowa, and that's where it started. His connection with Oklahoma and with the Supes brothers, that kind of strengthened our relationship. And then when he got the job at Houston is when I was getting a job at Wisconsin, and we would get together at clinics and conventions and just talk about different things. And then obviously when I made the move here, through different events with the SEC conference, but also recruiting, we bump into each other quite a bit and see each other around. So I know he's a big man that can handle his own situation and has championed that moment every time it's ever come up. So a guy that I cheer for, obviously compete against this Saturday, but a guy that I really admire and respect.
They played not very well in the first half and really well in the second half Saturday. Halftime adjustments or just kind of...
Who's it? You said... Yeah, absolutely. I did make it back. I was on the road recruiting, but I'd made it home and got a chance to watch pretty much live the whole from the second quarter on. And I think when you got a team that responds the way they did and finish the way they did, you know that they got players that believe and respond in a very, very positive light. They put it on their back and turned that game around in the fourth quarter. But they've got good athletes. You know, they got good athletes that can change the game in a minute, and did that on both sides of the ball, and especially in the return game.
What do you think about that kid, Mon? It's like he just
his stats are getting better.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a guy, I remember him from recruiting. He's obviously a very gifted athlete, but I thought the part that was different in the second half for him was he really threw the ball with some confidence, stepped into some throws, and it's something they're going to continue to build and work upon. And just like any other position, when you got a young player at a position, especially a quarterback, you just got to weather the storm, try to make it easy around him, and I know that's what they're trying to do.
During a lot of the game against TCU, I know it wasn't perfect, but was that maybe his best game?
Dre's even just last night, I was watching the end zone version of our practice, and linebackers have a tendency to get in a hurry to go somewhere, and Dre, I think because he's so athletic, he never crosses his feet. He's very poised. He's consistent in his demeanor to the football, inside out, for the most part. But if he has to set an outside in edge, then he'll do that as well. I grabbed him on Sunday after the TCU and said, "Hey, brother, you had 17 tackles. Could have probably had 22, 23." And he knows it. I think the maturity that he's shown, he's trying to get better every day. I really just. When you walk in the lunchroom and you see a guy like Dre, you point at a guy like that's the linebacker. He's the guy that stands out, and him and Scooter, I think, as a tag team, have a chance to be pretty special if we keep them going in the right direction.
How much has he missed not having that workouts? I mean, how much catch-up did he have to do?
Dre?
Yeah.
That was more during, obviously during the spring and fall, but once he's been cleared, we really. We're conscious of, we're aware of it. What we do with him a little bit more than others is we might modify his off the field conditioning, or if we get further into the season, we may back off and not have him in individual and keep him more for the teamwork period, just to try to back off the volume that he might have in a work week.
When people focus on the running game,
Our running game.
yeah, people talk about tackle to tackle,
Mm-hmm.
tight end and wide receiver, because that's where a lot of newness is.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
TCU game.
Well, the first two games, tight end.
I think it took us a little bit of time to get going in the opener, just because, again, there were some limiting factors there. I knew that was going to happen. We got new wide receivers who, until they actually see it and feel it, and perimeter blocking is unique. You can do it all day, every day in practice, but in live game scenarios, when people are starting to dive over blocks, people are running over or around in full speed reactions, you kind of have to use the game as teaching film. So. I think Austin Cantrell would be the first to say that he wants to play better. He's a guy that we really like as a tight end and a blocker, and I think he's going to make huge jumps. I think C.J. O'Grady is right on the cusp of turning into a really, when he goes, he's pretty special. And his on switch is hitting more and more than it's not hitting. I think Jeremy Patton, as a junior college player, has played himself into shape a little bit. He was a little late getting here, but talent-wise and intelligence-wise is what we need. I felt bad a little bit for Will Gregg. He'd really started to do some different things, and unfortunately just got a little nick that had nothing to do with football, just a little injury that is healed up now. It's limited him in a little bit, but something that it was just poor timing, because he ran a play on Saturday while he was in on the screenplay to CJ and was 100 miles an hour, did a great job. So I'm as he returns to practice, we're going to really try to engage him more. And then Jack Krause does a nice job. He's a guy that plays a lot of different roles for us. So I think that tight end core and the blocking on the perimeter could be big for us.
Brett, is there any change up with maybe the return game at all? I assume Jared's going to be back there returning punts.
Yeah, I think two things. I think Jay Red, as we feel more comfortable with him, that was his first game back. So as a punt returner, he's never really been back there as a kick returner, But I am trying to host a different guys at the kick return position, both at the primary and off position. I think some of these young bucks, Davion Warren, we'll have back there Gary Cross. We had Deion Stewart kind of pegged in, and I like him in that role. But when he got rolled up, that eliminated him and kept him out of those reps. So he's another guy too that I still don't think's been given a full shot. There was a missed block on that play where he fumbled. Obviously we got great ball security, but someone let a guy fly through unblocked, and that was the result of that game-changing fumble. So we got to clean up those units overall and give our guys a better chance.
Is Brandon Martin, is he healthy? And if so, is it kind of tough for him to break into that tighter?
Yeah, it's a good question. Brandon, yesterday, was not able to go last Wednesday or Thursday, but we just focused on getting him as healthy as we could Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yesterday he went out, he ran with the trainers away from the field, but did so well that we brought him back in the middle of practice. We don't practice today, but he will tomorrow. So he's a guy that we are excited about. I think I really stressed with our ones, with our one offense, I wanted Jay Red, Jordan Jones, Jonathan Nance, and Deion Stewart to kind of get the majority of those reps, and then that next group of guys, between LaMichael Petway, Brandon Martin, Davion Warren, Gerard Barnes, those guys kind of get that next group of reps, and let's just see our guys get better at what they got to do.
Austin said that he just needs to go out there and let it rip. Sometimes just go play.
Yeah.
What do you see from him since the game?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think he was trying to maybe, I'm not going to step in and try to coach him up on his throwing motion, but I think him and Dan both had some conversations about that, and just being able to let the ball go, see it, believe it, throw it, and let the results come as they are. I think he's also felt, for himself, the weight of the world trying to make this whole offense go, and all he's got to do is be the quarterback. He's got guys around him that can run the football, guys around him that can catch the football, guys in front of him that can block for him. So he just got to fill the role as quarterback, and the more he does that, the better we'll be.
Yeah, how important has it been to be able to have a presence downfield and complete those passes to help the run game?
Yeah, we took, they were playing a little bit of split safety looks, and we were doing some different things. We took a shot downfield, I believe, 4 times or 5 times on post routes or deep routes, and just weren't able to connect. There was one that was open, unfortunately fell down. There was one that was a DPI to Deion that I think that was, fairly close to being a completion. Obviously, I think he want to put a little more air under it, but we're right there knocking on the door. You got to be able to connect those things, and again, for me, what I told those guys, we decided earlier in the week we were going to take those shots downfield, and when I made reflection back to when I was the defense coordinator, whether or not you completed them or not, if you threw them, it brought an awareness in the way you could call a game, and I think that part really came out. And again, if we got to do it, 2 times, we'll do it whenever we got to do it. I don't want to put any restrictions on it. But bottom line is, we also got to be able to complete the pass and be able to convert yardage and scores. There was probably a dozen plays, if not a few more, that literally, it's a 14-7 game against a team that's now ranked number 15 in the country. Everybody get pissy and worried about everything, but if you convert 1 to 2 of those plays, it's a game that could easily be in our hands. Now, you can sit around and talk about it. That's what I really stressed to our guys. Last year, you climbed up to 16 in the country. You're doing some things. Had a couple setbacks. At the end of the year, you didn't finish. You're so close to being over this hump. And when we get over that hump, a lot of good things will happen, and I'm excited for this group to do it.
When you see from their defense, they have really good run defense, pass defense.
Yeah, I think they're athletic. They stay on their feet. Obviously, their coordinator and coach has been around a long time, bring a variety of different pressures. They attack the ball very, very well on the back end. I think they're opportunistic, and because of the athletes that they have, they can take advantage of certain things. But we got to execute our plan. Again, it's about how they line up. I get it. We got a game plan, but it's about how we run our stuff that's going to have the biggest decision on Saturday.
Trying to make sure I understand. When you
Yeah.
say they're playing split safety, when you hit some of those big plays, they're not in the run game as much. If you can hit them over the top.
Yeah, I go back to, and Dan and I have obviously had the same philosophies for a long time, is as you dedicate more to the run game, it usually on the back end clears up what a quarterback sees prior to and also post-snap, I remember working with Russell, and he was always talking about how clear the game became to be when he was playing for us, from the fact that people had to tip their hat a little bit before the snap of what they were doing, and allows you to read things easier after the ball is snapped or even prior to. So I think those things are there. We got to get our guys to run the right routes and accelerate and work the timing of it and get the patterns down. But again, I think the positive out of a negative of past Saturday was we've seen what fails, and now we can point to what brings success.
Did you get anything from the 1-against-1 work last week?
Yeah, I think that was probably the thing that brought everybody back. I know Wednesday when we first went good. It was at the beginning part of practice, and we were firing at our number. We were going 2 huddles. Our offensive huddles we run 2 huddles at our defense to simulate obviously up-tempo offenses, and just the reaction of our guys, the competitive nature, and the fact that we had to kind of back out of it because the guys were getting so involved in it. Just our guys are competitors. They're very prideful. They're hurt. I know that it stung them to lose that game, a game that we had won last year, but to not be able to pull it through in the fourth quarter stung, and I'm glad it did because it's going to help us in the future.
Couple more. I assume more emphasis this week for Chase Hayden.
Yeah. What's that?
And maybe some stuff for TJ too. You always talk
Yeah,
about
TJ, 2 guys that are very electric, and 2 guys that definitely can do some things with the ball in their hands. Chase, we definitely addressed with him, had everybody talk to him about that the intention was not to get him to only 2 reps, and assured him that that's not going to happen again. He's been good. Now he's got to hold up his end of the bargain too. He's got to practice well and perform well and do the things that give you confidence during the course of the week, and he'll do that. He's a great kid with great demeanor. TJ, we've kind of moved principally to the wide receiver position, let him concentrate on that because Chase can be more than adequate with 3 tailbacks. Allow TJ to concentrate a little bit more at wide receiver, but I think the both of them have the ability to change the game. And then in the return game, some that you mentioned as well, those 2 guys both are guys that we're considering for roles in that game.
So this uniform stuff goes back to the spring with the Cowboys life?
Yeah. Hayden Red, who's been in our program here, a kid out of Fort Smith, great, huge Razorback fan, I think, his whole life, and he'd worked in our program here, and then he'd worked over with Jeff. I think he was the one that kind of conceptually had the idea together to put some people together on artwork, and I was very intrigued with it. I sent it on to Nike, and Jeff did a lot as well, and I think it was a cumulative effort, but I think once somebody heard the name Jerry Jones was excited about it, that tended to accelerate the process a little bit more than other people. So fun to be a part of it.
As much as that loss hurts 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You're starting your SEC schedule.
Yeah.
So how much can you kind of use that?
Huge. Again, you are defined in life by more about your reaction to adversity than you are by success, and I know these guys have worked very hard to get to where they are. It hurt a lot, especially when you watch the film on Sunday. That's why we watched it twice. I want them to realize how close they are. Again, they have to understand too how many good things they did. You can't just bury them with the negativity. There's enough of that in this world today. So we've really tried to, hey, put this behind you, understand where it's at, learn from it, don't leave it behind you. Let's have it be a part of our future as well. So the good news is they did some things very, very well. Some young guys have continued to come along. I really encourage them to do 2 things: hold each other accountable. As coaches, we can talk about it all we want, we can preach it, and we can say it, but I wanted some accountability within the positional groups, within the room, and that's definitely there. And then also, I don't need anybody superhuman to show up. I don't need 10 guys are going to be, or 11 guys, first team All SEC. I mean, it'd be great on Saturday, but the fact of the matter is we don't. But the guys that are at that level need to play at that level. The guys that are support players need to play their support role. Guys, if they're going to get 10 plays in the offensive package, they need to be great in those 10 plays. And we can't have any, we were detrimental in certain times with some costly penalties. We did not tackle with the same efficiency that we did in the preseason during our scrimmages in the first game. And when we do things that are uncharacteristic of what we train to be, we're going to have failure. And I can't stress enough to our guys that you're at the status where you need to be. You understand it. When we have a kid make a mistake, not only does he know it, everybody else knows it. And that wasn't there. I remember my first couple of years, we'd have a fumble, and somebody would be complaining whether or not it was a fumble, rather than owning the ball security. Now we know when we fumble or we have ball security issues, it leads to disaster. And it sounds like a small step, but it's a big step. And now, once they taste it, it's very hard to get there. But once you accomplish that feeling and that taste, it's very easy to go back to it. It's why you see some of these successful teams that are down by large numbers or down in the heat of battle come back and win it. It's because they expect to have success. And when our kids read or hear or see so much blah, 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 unfortunately, they begin to believe it, you know, and I mean, that's why the positive rhetoric that we can put in front of them, the visual imagery, the consistency that we can show that they have success, the better they'll be, because that's what they consume.
You talked about texting coaches in the past. Would you have texted Kevin after that first game, the UCLA game?
No, no, we don't. Usually we text happy thoughts, I think, overall. I don't do it with a lot of guys, but a handful of guys, just like you, when you're sure in your personal life. I think when there's bad things that happen that are away from the game, you always, you reach out, compassion, and do stuff like that. But when they're football things, it's you're already hearing. I know for me as a head coach, I don't want to hear it, so I don't really do that back to others.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good.